us on this sunshiny Sunday. Hopefully we'll brighten your day in a little bit of a different way with some fantastic jazz. It is not without folks like you that we would still be here headed into our 40th year in the fall, so thank you for being a part of the legacy here at Kerrytown Concert House. I want to mention the art on our walls right now is by a fantastic area artist, Kathy Berry. This exhibit is up through April 29th. So take a look while you're here. If you're interested in purchasing anything, you can talk to me after the show. I do also want to remind you to turn off or silence all cell phones. You're welcome to take pictures, but please keep in mind others around you and that it can be distracting. I want to extend some special thanks to our Don Chisholm Friends of Jazz at Kerrytown Concert House, who not only support all of our jazz programming here, but our programming at large, and many of you are in the house tonight. So thank you to our Friends of Jazz. All right, and now the reason you are all here today. We are delighted that Alan Rowe has brought some new faces to our stage today, and they are going to share with you the process of what it's like to put together a band, to select music for an album, and what it's like to record an album before they head into the studio in June for this new recording altogether. So we have on saxophone Mike Sakash, we have Dennis Carroll on bass, and Neil Hemphill on drums, and of course the illustrious Alan Rowe on piano. So without further ado, Alan Rowe's all about the piano and making of the jazz sausage.
thank you so much. Let me just take a second to introduce all these wonderful players to you. On the drums, from Chicago, Neil Hemphill. On the bass, also here from Chicago, Dennis Carroll. And on saxophone, here from Chatham, New Hampshire, Mike Sakash. Yes, Chatham, New Hampshire, the jazz capital of the world. So we are very happy to be here today playing for you, trying out some new music. You may have heard one or two of these before, but this is probably the first time you've heard it with a quartet, and we've been refining it in the last couple days, making some changes here and there, which is always fun to do when you have new players to work with. So that first one was my arrangement of I'll Remember April, and I went ahead and did a few new chords, added a few extra bars here and there to let things breathe, changed up the kind of the vibe of the piece, if you will, a little bit until we get to the solos where it's fairly straight ahead and swinging. But as will happen when you're working with new players and getting new ideas, after the first time I think played it through with Dennis in rehearsal, he had this idea to give us a whole new harmonic palette for the solo section, which some of you know the tune may have noticed, which really I think we've all decided makes it much more fun to play. So instead of the traditional changes that we're all used to playing on I'll Remember April, now we have a whole new set of chords that we can work with on the A sections of the tune. Then when in the bridge, we play the original changes, and then we go back to this pedal point. So those are just some of the fun things that happen when you work with players that you may not have worked with very much before. And I am going to go into, a little bit into the history of how I met all of these folks. Now, do I want to do it now, or do I? Yeah, I'll do that right now before we go on. So I'll start with the gentleman to my left. My family has a summer cabin up in, well, it's also winter. It's kind of year-round now. A cabin that's been in the family about halfway up the Maine, New Hampshire border for 70 years now. And we go up there, we love it. It's where we all gather, my siblings and myself. And right across it's across the border from your house, but just down the road, maybe 20 minutes, is Freiburg Maine Academy, which has got a great reputation, and it's had a wonderful jazz program for many years. And it just so happens that Mike runs the program there. And I don't think I really knew that he was there until we were, I believe, and you can correct me if I've got this wrong, during COVID, we were both adjudicating at an online jazz festival run by the University of Montana. So, I mean, this is, you can't make this stuff up. So we're both, and the director of the festival decided to have a little online social hour, and so all the adjudicators and guest artists are hanging out online, and we're just all chatting. And I don't know if it was Rob who first said, hey, Ellen and Mike, you guys have something in common. And suddenly we discovered that, when I'm up in Maine, we are about 20 minutes away from each other. And it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. There's a wonderful jazz artist so close by. And I think the first thing that happened was that I invited him to do a little concert or fundraiser at the church. Yeah, so the church across the lake from our cabin, we put on a little fundraiser, and I invited him over, and I can't speak for Mike, but I just felt like I'd been playing with him all my life. And I was like, wow, how often does this happen? So anyway, we have stayed in touch. We're now doing duo gigs at a Majestic Cafe in Conway, New Hampshire. So when I'm up there, we've got one coming up in May. We've got another one in August, doing that a couple times a year. And of course, once I heard him play and I started dreaming about this next recording project, I thought he was exactly the person I wanted to bring in for it. So that's a little bit of my history with Mike. And we have decided that our history goes back about 7 or 8 years. There's a wonderful saxophonist named Adam Larson, who I know at least one person here knows. And Adam, kind of out of the blue, invited me to come and play a gig with him in Grand Rapids. And I was just, wow, this is an amazing saxophonist. What a great opportunity. So I went out and played that gig, even though it was electric piano, not my favorite. And sitting on drums and bass were Dennis and Mike, and Dennis and Neil, sorry, Mike is over here. Dennis and Neil. And so we played, and it was just a kind of gig where we were all calling standards that we wanted to play. It was background music, but it was the same thing. I just suddenly felt like I'd worked with both of them for years and years and years. I felt like Dennis knew exactly what I was going to play before I played it, and Neil was so amazingly sensitive and responsive. And as it turned out, how long have you guys been playing together, do you think?
Since I moved to Chicago, 2016,
20. Okay, so they have a history going back about eight years and playing together maybe with Bobby Broom. I know that. And then, yeah, so anyway, so Neil moved to Chicago about 8 years ago, and they've been playing together as a rhythm section ever since. So anyway, then they came, and I think they did a clinic with Adam at U of M, so I had another chance to see them there and play with them. And I think maybe instead of my talking on and on, I'll talk a little bit about the process of pulling everybody together and kind of dreaming up this project and how it got funded and all that good stuff after we play some more music for you. So, since I talked about Maine, now we're gonna play a piece that a few of you may have heard if you've heard us at the Blue Llama, heard me at the Blue Llama. But this is a piece called "The Loons of Vinton's Cove," and it's about the waterfowl loons, not about escaped inmates or anything like that. And I will make this very short. Sometimes I can ramble on and on about the loons, and I will not subject you to that right now. But we have a pair of common loons that have been trying to nest in our cove in Maine for a good 5 years now. And I've watched them, and I have been rooting for them, and I've been working with the Loon Preservation Society up there. We put a loon raft on the cove. If any of you have seen what they are doing now to try to help the loon population, they build these floating loon rafts. And that keeps them away from, because otherwise the loons are going to build on land, and all kinds of predators come and get the eggs, or the loons themselves, which is even worse. And that was, the loons were nesting on land, and the first year I was checking them out, the raccoons were getting the eggs, and it was really sad. But anyway, for the last couple of years, they've been doing their best, and just one thing after another has interrupted them, and they have not been able to produce any chicks. So I just thought the fact that they come back year after year and keep trying, they deserved a song. So this song is sort of about their trials and tribulations, if you will, but it is called "The Loons of Vinton's Cove." One, two, three, and So we're sending that out to our loon pair in the hopes that they will use the loon raft as they are supposed to, and that they have luck in presenting us with some chicks this year. So anyway, I wanted to just talk a little bit about how this project came to be. As all of you know, I'm very, very fortunate to be teaching at the University of Michigan, and there's a lot of encouragement for faculty to engage in their own research, and there's a lot of funding which supports faculty in their own research. So I started thinking about what I would like my next recording project to be, and I just thought I would like to, record some of the new pieces I've been writing, a few of them during the pandemic that, hadn't really seen the light of day on a CD or any other recorded format. And then I started thinking, I am so fortunate, and I think all of us will talk a little bit about this, but in the areas we live in, especially these guys in Chicago and me here in Ann Arbor and Detroit, there are lots and lots of amazing jazz players, and we get to work with them on our own gigs. We get to called to play with them as a side person on other gigs, and there's just no end of opportunities to play wonderful jazz in this area. And that being said, I thought, well, it might be fun to try to get an opportunity to play with other players who I normally would have to pay out of my own pocket for to bring in from other places around the country. And so I thought about asking the university for money to record this project, which meant that I got to dream about who I would love to play with in a perfect world where I could just, hire people from different parts of the country. And as I mentioned, I came up with these three. And also in this project, Sunny Wilkinson is going to sing a couple tunes. She wasn't able to be with us today, but she will be with us here for Mother's Day. And Pete Sears is also going to join on a couple tunes as well, which will be a lot of fun, because I love, of course, playing with Pete. And so I applied for the grant, and I figured out all the math of what I would need, because I wanted to make sure these wonderful players got paid for their time here. They're rehearsing with me. They're giving up time. They're time that they're not at their own, in their home cities. City, I use the term lightly. What is the population of Chatham, New Hampshire? 300. 300. Yeah, so. Anyway, so I wanted to make sure they were compensated not only for the gigs that we're playing, but for rehearsal time, things like that. I figured that out. I figured out mileage for them driving, air tickets, hotel, the recording time, and of course I'm lucky to have a wonderful recording studio at the Duderstadt Center in the Michigan campus, so we'll be recording there. So I put that all together. I wrote up my proposal. I was lucky enough to get it funded, and about $18,000 later, I'm working my way through it, trying to rehearse and get gigs with this wonderful group. So we will record in June. They'll come out. I can't remember the exact dates. 8th, 9th, somewhere in there. Yeah, you know what it is. You've got it in your books. And we'll rehearse some more, and then we'll go into the studio for 2 days. And hopefully come out with a finished product. It'll still need to be mastered after that, and will also still need to be mixed. So we go into the studio, and we have some great engineers there, and they'll get levels on all the instruments, and we'll play. We'll do a couple takes of each piece. But after the process is done, then I get to sit in the studio for a long time with the engineer and tweak the levels and try to get the balance exactly the way I want it, get the sounds that I think the players want to have for themselves. And after that, we'll go into all the marketing and PR and things like that. But that's kind of the nitty-gritty about how this project came to be. And let's see. Oh yeah, I thought you'd like to know just a little bit more about each of these players. So I was going to ask them all just to speak a little bit about what they do, where they live, just some of the people they play with, or the types of jazz work they get, or teaching work. So Mike, you want to start things off?
So I'm a teacher, a full-time teacher. I began teaching at a liberal arts college in Pittsburgh, PA, for about 10 years. And then my wife and I escaped to the woods. We live in the woods, literally. And it's been great, a great place to raise our kids. And now we're starting to get out a little bit into the world. But it's been really surprising there. And as Ellen might agree, there's some surprising musicians in the spot that I live, and a really great audience just like this. So it's been great fun to get to play with really high-level players while I've been up there in the woods. Portland is our main hub of music. We've got a great big band there and some like-minded folks, so it's been really great. And then I've just got to say to Ellen, it's such a treat to get to meet new folks with a project like this. It's a whole new experience, and it feels like a new chapter. So here's to new friends and new musicians. So.
Yeah, and thank you, Mike. I'm going to pelt you with one or two more questions. So, what kinds of work do you find yourself doing there? For just out of curiosity.
Yeah. So, as you get older, you can be a little pickier with what you play. I don't do the weddings and things like that, and I really just do the gigs with people that I want to play with for fun. People like Ellen, it's just so much fun. There's a couple of rhythm sections back home, so a lot of small group activity. And again, this big band that I play with, the Portland Jazz Orchestra, you can look them up on Spotify and everywhere else. That's been a great outlet for writing. I love to write music. So they're very kind and generous to read and record my tunes. So that's kind of how I fill my non-teaching day, which is a big day.
When he's not building sailboats and chartering them down to Grenada and things like that.
Yeah, sailing is my mistress outside of music. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Maybe turn things over to Neil while Dennis is rejoining us. Just talk a little bit about what you do in Chicago and other places.
Can you guys hear me? So I moved to Chicago in. Let me take this off. Moved to Chicago, like I said, in 2015, and I followed a girl out there, and that didn't work out, but I ended up playing a lot, so that's good, Yeah, I don't know. I love to play straight ahead jazz, and Chicago is a place where that does exist. And also some other adventurous, there's some master musicians that live in Chicago. So I've been lucky to work with some of those. Dennis being one of them. He's the Don of the bass in Chicago for sure. And I don't know, I play, I just did my taxes and I added it all up. I played like over 300 gigs this year, So you get to work in Chicago and, all sorts of different things. I get to play some adventurous, spirited music and also a lot of stuff that's just background, pay the bills music. But I don't teach, and I'm fortunate enough to live in a place that has has the infrastructure to allow me to do that. So that's about what I do.
Wow. No, 300 is an impressive amount of gigs. Maybe we should think about moving to Chicago now. Yeah. No, I'm very happy here. Dennis, do you just want to talk a bit about what you do in Chicago? And I know you do teach. And
yeah, right now I've been fortunate to be at DePaul University, where I'm the jazz bass professor. I'm also at the Ravinia Reach Teach and Play program, which is a mentor program, and it's really cool, subsidized, and so we go into the inner city schools in Chicago, and we develop kids with potential, but more kids that are needing just a chance to grow, and so that's been very rewarding for sure. I like doing a lot of that very, very much now. Not playing as much as I did, and have my own group and originals and ideas that I'm hearing in that way. And so it's really to go out and play with people that are first of all, very good musicians and very nice people, is like we're doing here, is super cool, and I'm just glad to be a part of this.
Great. So just give you a little bit of background on everybody. And I think, let me just check I have less papers than usual to shuffle here, but I'm still having to shuffle. Okay, so we're going to continue now with a piece I wrote during the pandemic. It's entitled Refractions, and the idea for it came about when I was thinking about the way light comes through a prism or might come through water, and the way it goes out in different directions. And I started thinking about how a single note can sound very different depending on what chord is underneath it. And so I started, and maybe I'll demonstrate that a little bit here. Sounds nice, has a certain sound to it. It's a little bit brighter sound maybe. A little bit more complex sound, right? It's not a chord tone anymore. It's not even in the scale, really. And then maybe, so that's just, there's subtle differences, but I really love playing around with those sounds, and so you'll hear some chords, I hope, moving in interesting ways, and some melody notes going to places maybe you didn't expect them to. This is Refractions. Dennis Carroll on the bass on that. Mike Sakash on soprano. So I think what we'll do is Mike and I have played a lot of duo together, and we're going to put a duo tune or two on the album. So I think maybe we're going to go ahead and just play a quick duo tune for you. I think this is Alone Together. Thank you, Mike Sakash. Okay, we're going to continue now with another one I wrote, I think it was also during the pandemic. Some of you may know this one. It's entitled Clipped In Blues. It's about a very embarrassing bike accident I had. I was fine, I'll just put that out there right now, but I had just been riding clipped into the pedals for a short period of time and thought I had mastered it, and came around the corner and was just about to pull up to my driveway, and I saw a neighbor, so I stopped to talk, and I remembered to unclip one of my feet and put it down, which was good. So I'm resting 1 foot clipped, 1 foot unclipped, and I'm chatting with a neighbor. We get done with our conversation, and I think to myself, all right, I'm just going to go, get off my bike and walk back up the driveway, forgetting I was still clipped into one of the pedals. So I started to try to lift my leg over and just fell down on the ground. It was extremely embarrassing, but we hope you will hear a little bit of the accident in the song itself. Dennis Carroll, Neil Hemphill, like Sakash. Okay, we always like to open it up for questions. We've got 2 more pieces for you, but if anyone has any questions either for the gentleman on the stage or myself or anything about the process of putting a project together or recording, we would be more than happy to take them. So if you think of something, yeah, Paul.
Well, at the heart of all this is improvisation.
Absolutely.
I'm curious about when you do a project like this, you will have played these pieces together
Mm-hmm.
some number of times before you sit down to record it.
Sure.
How much is still improvisation when you record it?
Okay, in case anyone in the live stream didn't hear that, it's a great question, and it is, since we will have played these tunes several times together before we record, how much will still feel improvised when we're actually at the recording session. And I would say one of the reasons that, I love everyone I get to play with, but I completely trust these folks to be very, very inventive and come up with some things that they will never have come up with before. I mean, every time Mike and I play together in duo, he's always laying new stuff on me that we've not done before, and I get a chance to respond to it. But I want to, does anyone else have any thoughts about this, like playing together a lot with different, and then getting to a session and trying to find inspiration? Mike's going to jump in. Thank you.
Real quick.
Yeah, please, no.
I think the nice thing about playing the songs again and again is by the time we get to that session, I'm hoping the improvisation element will be even more than it is now, because we'll be more comfortable with the material. We've played it in front of people. So then when you go to the studio, if you know it really well, I think you feel freer to try things and maybe color outside the lines occasionally. But I guess we're still in a learning process. This music is pretty new to us, and I think it will be more improvisatory on the recording end.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I mean, I wrote this music, but yet I'm still looking at it too. I'm still trying to get to know it well enough, and my goal is to play everything by memory at the session and not have to have the music, because I do think, I could be wrong about this, but I do think the more the eyes are involved, the less the ears get involved. That may not be quite right, but I kind of believe that if I'm not staring at the page, I'm freer to make eye contact with everybody. And I say this to my students a lot, but I am convinced that I'm a great listener. I'm convinced that when I'm on stage with other players, I am listening intently to everything they play. And then I'll actually look up at them, and I'll realize that I wasn't really, in fact, paying that close attention. Once I look at them, it's like, now I'm hearing them. Or if I'll turn, and I'm hearing Dennis, I kind of know what's going on. But if I watch his fingers or just look at him, it's like suddenly I'm hearing him differently and actually more acutely. So, that's the goal, is to get off the page. But great question. Any other questions? Yes, Dallas.
In this era, how do you distribute this? Is it CDs?
Oh boy. Yeah, so the question is, in this era, how do we distribute our music? I'm very old school. I will still make some CDs because I think it's still nice to go out to a gig and have some product to put in people's hands for those who still have CD players. And I have given some thought to actually buying CD players to sell as well. Haven't quite gone that far. But I think I'll do both a digital version. Our students are doing EPKs. Actually, Harrison, I should ask you, what are students, your generation doing for distribution when you record?
Bandcamp or CD Baby,
Bandcamp, SoundCloud, maybe?
or SoundCloud, or
Yeah. So digital platforms where you can release the music, I think, fairly easily and at least get some financial remuneration, not a lot, but Spotify, unfortunately, is kind of the bane of our existence. I mean, we all use it, and everybody's got their Spotify playlist, but the artist sees nothing, really, in when people listen to their music on Spotify. So, and I think, I'll probably try and sell things off my website, either in a digital version. Of course, that would mean I'd have to update my website, which I have not updated in about 5 years. So, I've got some work to do. But that was another question, yeah. That was a great question as well, thank you. Yeah?
How much of the parts of the other players are you writing before they show up?
Oh, that's a good one. So I am giving them the roadmap for sure. I'm saying, 8 bars of intro, and then the melody, who's ever playing the melody. Mike has all the melody written out for himself. They all have the chord changes that they have to play. There might be an interlude, or there might be an ending that we all have to do together. That will be very specifically notated. But when it comes to the improvisation part, all they're looking at are the chord changes. and they're just making it up as they go along with a given. And there's some rhythmic hits, things that we do together rhythmically that are notated as well. But everybody's looking. There's a few of us looking at the same. The rhythm section looks at some of the same parts that I put piano bass sometimes on the same piece because it's easy to do. But for the most part, we're all looking at different parts. But yeah, great question. All right, we've got two more, and we're gonna excuse Mike for the next one. This is an arrangement I did of one of my very favorite songs that I grew up with, Both Sides Now, and I have definitely reharmonized it a little bit, but I am such a fan and such reverence of Joni Mitchell that I have been very, very careful, I think anyway, to pay the piece the respect it deserves and to not go all crazy with new harmonies that don't make any sense. But anyway, so this is my take on Both Sides Now, and we hope you like it. Thank you. Both sides now. We would like to thank you all very much for being here on a beautiful, beautiful spring day. We've got some thank yous, of course. I want to echo what Abby said, our Friends of Jazz, Don Chisholm Friends of Jazz group. We love you, and we are so thankful to you for helping make this all possible. We also, of course, want to thank everybody at Kerrytown, Abby, Kelman back there working the sound and the live stream, Emily, wonderful development director, and, of course, Monica and Abby. Abby jokes. Thank you to all of them. All right, we're going to close with a new one I don't think any of you have heard yet. It's called Ebb and Flow. We're going to feature Neil on the drums on this. And I'm not sure if I have anything more to say about it. I think you'll hear the ebb and flow when we play it for you. So thank you very much again for being here. This is Ebb and Flow. Oh, we're back, not this band, but my band with Paul and Sonny Wilkinson and Pete Sears will be back on Mother's Day for you. Neil Hemphill on the drums. Dennis Carroll on the bass. Mike Sakash on saxophones. Thank you. I'm Ellen Rowe, and we thank you so much for being here today. And anybody who's not doing anything later can come out to Detroit and hear us at Cliff Bell's.